Cool. Well, let's start then. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. I hope you all are really good and your family are doing awesome. My name is Flora, and I am the head of communication at TEDxEcublens. So you probably know TEDxEcublens. We are an association which organizes TEDx events on UNIL and EPFL campuses. Our community is eager to inspire and share new ideas. That is the reason why we want to create a safe place where we can talk about those ideas and also talk about actual matters. That's the reason of why today we are doing this webinars. So let's put it like that. This webinar is the first one of 3 webinars. We're gonna have one today, one in about 2 weeks, and one in about a month. The format of those webinars will be a 20-25 minute conversation. And then you guys are really welcome to ask at any time your question. In doing so, I ask you just to text me your question, and then I'll be able to then ask Dr. Amin Kaboli here with us. So yeah, so this is kind of the format of this webinar. It's really, the idea is really to have a conversation about leading through disruption. So yeah, I want to welcome our guest, Dr. Amin Kaboli, former lecturer at EPFL and former TEDxEcublens speaker. So it's really a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Flora. Thank you for the introduction, and
You're welcome.
all is well at your side.
Yeah.
During this tough time and exam time.
I mean, it is always well for me as well, for sure. I mean, so let's put everybody on the same page and why we're here. So, I mean, can you tell us a little bit about disruption? What does it mean to you? And, can you just, lay out the...
Well, thank you, Flora. Look, any kind of definition, if you're going to have, it's not going to be accurate. But anyway, we're just communicating matter of like better understanding of the events, right? Disruption is a small event problem. It's interruption in the habit of work or routine of the work. Any routine of the work, process, or things that are like happening. So if we see there's a connotation of negative, like perceived negatively, right? And if I want to provide any image for that one, it's like a wave, the wave of, the great wave of Hokusai, I guess it was a Japanese painter in 1820s or 30s. He painted this very beautiful, let's say, concept, a metaphor, showing that it is out of the control, out of our hand, things that are not planned, and it's coming and disrupting. So overall, there are different definitions for that, different, let's say, perception for that, or different terms even. Catastrophe, crisis, turbulence, uneasy time, difficult, challenging, unprecedented time. So you see a lot of things out there we have seen in the literature, and out there's going on, but overall, it's disruption. It's change in the routine of our life.
So what I can hear is disruption have mostly negative meaning, but we've seen good thing coming out of disruption, and is it possible that good thing comes out of disruption?
Look, good or bad, it's our judgment, or let's say our perception, right? But yes, there is a specific part. For example, we have in business, we call it disruptive innovation. So that is considered positive. Like a company uses technology, or a company uses a kind of different approach, and then disrupts the business model, disrupts the old way or traditional way. But we have to, I mean, this term is coined by Professor Christensen from Harvard Business School. But we have to be careful. And then there are like conditions for that, how we can use the term, if you're gonna really put it in the academic frame. But this is a very important point here is, it could be positive, depends how you're gonna look at it. Second point is, if we're going to talk about really disruptive innovation, it is more about consumer behavior or unhappy customers. It's not about technology. We are in an engineering department school, and we are all in the environment, and it's just day and night. We hear a lot of buzz about digital transformation, which indeed helping, and COVID accelerated the process. But it's this disruptive innovation is not about technology. It's about unhappy customer.
So do you have any, for example, because when I hear in disruption innovation, I hear about technology. So do you have any example of, those
Disruptive
innovation?
innovation.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Well,
That you can,
wrongly in the like in many cases they consider Tesla, which is not.
Yeah.
Disruptive innovation should be something like is not existing, and it
Okay.
comes there, and it is totally changes. Example: Netflix.
Okay.
You see that? Well, to some extent, Uber. To some extent. Anyway, there are lists there that we can go through that, and then the Alibaba, for example, coming. Okay, but not all the business, like the some part, or Google for the search engine. Sorry, the advertisement, because search engine does exist, but something that is coming, and the level of innovation is big, but it starts from somewhere that is very remote. Nobody really looked at Netflix as something profitable, and it went up. So Tesla started from up from the market, not from the down.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So would you say that, between, so let's see, Netflix or Tesla and all that stuff, it's just a new way of doing things, so it can be called a change or something. What really distinct between disruption and change, then? What's for you the difference?
Sure. Before going to that, if I may, let's have a clear definition of innovation, which is basically, as we discussed implicitly, but explicitly, innovation is a way to respond to uncertainty. So there is a big level of uncertainty out there, or level things are there, and then you respond. So this is innovation, okay? And then in different fields, we call it differently. For example, in engineering, we call it design thinking. In software engineering, we call it agile software development, for example. Or in entrepreneurship, my colleagues, they call it, like in business school, my colleague, they call it like lean startup, okay? Connotation, more, they are using the same essence, like we call it differently, more or less.
Okay.
So, but what I personally like about innovation is active learning, which we in physics, my colleagues, they call it, which is like active learning, and active way of seeing what is, and not necessarily attaching to what happened, what I had as a normal, what was in December, how my economic situation was, how, of course, these are important points to evaluate, but psychological attachment to this topic stops us to go further and being actively learning, and then having a proper, let's say, growth mindset, which is being open, embracing the change, and moving on.
So should we like engage in disruption? Should we start the disruption ourselves so we can grow from there, or what do you think about that?
This is definitely, I put under the umbrella of growth mindset, which is like being open and accepting what is. This is this is the main part that majority of human beings, we are lacking. We are like having difficulty there. We're insisting on what was, or what I want. So if you see the movement of the hand, either it is about the past or it's about the future. What is missing in this point of view is the focus for here and now, and what does matter. And you see, in a word level, like leaders level of the word, like you see on the leaders, things go on the different way of focusing, rather than here and now, solving it. Limited leaders like Angela Merkel or Jacinda Ardern, Prime Minister of New Zealand, or the name is very difficult for a leader of, I think it's president of Taiwan, or South Korea. They truly concentrated on here and now. What is the problem? What we have, how we can solve it, rather than finger pointing who was the cause of this issue. It's not going to save lives this way. Who was the cause of like economic downturn and so on. We talk about economic downturn. This is COVID accelerated, but there are other trade wars and other things are going on.
So how do you think we could prepare it, and how could manage this, this openness, and be ready for now, and not, be looking toward the past as an individual?
Okay, so the level is individual. Okay, because we can have a discussion on the individual level, we can have it on the organizational level, and then different societal level. But anyway, let's just start by individual level.
Yeah.
First and foremost, the cause, like uncertainty and disruption, causes a lot of, let's say, fear. And this fear comes out of unknown.
Yeah.
And we are like, we are hardwired for certainty. And if you see on the pyramid of needs, human basic needs by Maslow, this is on the base. We love certainty, okay? And we don't like uncertainty.
Yeah.
So some people might say like, nah, I like uncertainty. I like to be surprised. Yes, you like to be surprised again.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we are like generally hardwired to just be happy with what we have and a routine of job. And while we have the routine, we get bored. It's very funny if you see many people after COVID stayed at home while when they were commuting, they were complaining. When they stayed at home and they worked, they were again complaining. The complaining element was there. We understand it was an unprecedented time, difficult. This is not comparable before after, but this complaining factor stays the same, right? So in the individual level, if we really want to see and be very practical there, is first and foremost being responsible, right?
I see,
responsible is first is like taking the responsibility. The other one is ability to respond. To be able to respond properly, there is a space between the stimuli or what happens and how we are answering. There's a space there. So psychologists, they call it a choice space or inner space or freedom. There are many in literature we can find, from Viktor Frankl, from Covey, to many others. They're talking about this space, which is very important. And the freedom of anybody, any individual, is there, which is, since we don't see it, we don't consider it. So we go more on the knowledge part, which belongs to the past, and you're more going for reactivity rather than taking action.
I see. I see. Yeah.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I did. You did. Totally. You did. So now, how about organization? How you were talking? There's two aspects to it. There's the individual aspect and
so the individual part. If we consider this one, that your emotion is like, or our emotion is like a horse, and taking us, and we are the rider, the logical being. Okay. So the horse mainly take us like to somewhere in the, like somewhere that most of the time we don't know where we are. Like we just took the anger, shout, and then go there, or grief, or like resentment, we end up somewhere. So, and then we don't know the time or so. So that, for example, we say the horse is taking us, okay? But then imagine like in this side, which is like fear and anxiety, it's sort of like very heavy emotion and then creating motion differently. If this, we get to some level of emotional resilience and some level of emotional intelligence, we work on that in a self-mastery part, then we are able to manage other, or lead other. So the journey of leading others, it starts by leading oneself. So in some level, as I brought the name of the leaders, they definitely were reliable leaders, and they could make positive changes. Though in the COVID time, they have bounced back. This is temporary. What we say is for this time period. Because, for example, Singapore was successful up to some time, and then COVID bounced back. So what we say for Germany as successful model, or South Korea, or New Zealand and Taiwan, is just like temporary. And I hope it stays there. I hope it stays there. And that was the main point, that if you see Angela Merkel address Germans in video, very rarely it happens, that, and then was talking very like warm and trying to bond with people. But the main message was, be careful, stay prudent.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. And so talking about disruption and all that, we all know COVID is a big disruption, and that our normal way of life changed a lot. So do you think we will ever go back to normal of, or is there a new normal that we are entering in?
It's a very good question. I mean, it's it's our longing to go back. But back to what kind of normal? You know, the problem of us as human beings is just like we take things for granted, and we see the picture staying permanent. While if you see all of the philosophers, all of the let's say wise men over the history of humankind, they're just saying this physical life is impermanent, which means the only thing that remains unchanged is change, right? And then everything gonna change. So even if you see on the level of day, there's a night. Any up has a down, right? So the previous normal, short answer is no.
Okay.
The new normal, we're gonna have absolutely yes. And this new normal changed the landscape overall and brought forth like many changes, like lower productivity overall, because we were not at work or our factories or our shops somewhere, and then we didn't sell. So the general economy is just contracting, okay? And then more financial instability, like out of a thin air. I mean, it's very good that governments are supporting right now the businesses in any country, like for example, 3 trillion in United States as a support package. Japan announced 1 trillion, some number near to 1 trillion is 999 billion. And France, for example, other, let's say, support packages. But if you see, these are very supportive, definitely in the short run, definitely stimulating. But look, this money should be generated from somewhere, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Printed in the central bank, out of a thin air, is just injected into the economy to just have a stimulus for the economy or for the cycle. But then long run, we have to pay for the price of that one.
Yeah, for sure.
And you might say, like, we are sitting in Europe, why we should care about United States or the dollar? Look, 70% of transactions are happening in the United States.
It's true.
All of that in there. So you see the massive level. If that is depreciating, because it's devaluing the money, right?
Yeah.
So if that depreciates, all other currencies going to depreciate. So we have, this creates a big instability, which overall is going to impact. So there's the economic pattern, financial pattern, and of course, like production pattern and other patterns that we have. So COVID is one part of it.
Yeah, I see.
As I said, that great wave, COVID is one wave, exactly. The other wave is economic, let's say, downturn. The larger wave, however, is climate change.
Yeah, well, that's a lot of debates right there. But so what do you think from, because in a way it's interesting, the COVID-19 is interesting because in about 2 months, we've seen everything change so rapidly where, climate change and, economy can take, let's talk about climate change can take years to really change something around. So what do you think is something we can take from this, disruption, and we can, apply to our new life, new normal,
This is a very good question. The concentration is on the individual level?
Yeah.
Okay. So what we can learn on this level, because is to learn how to focus on something that is in our control.
Yeah.
Things that are out of our control, to some extent, we cannot do that until we expand the level of, or the area of our, let's say, influence, right? So this is the level that we have, and is our own control. So one of the things for the larger pattern, or what we can learn from COVID, is definitely this one: social responsibility.
Yeah.
Look, up until the time that our friends in pharmaceutical industry, they're getting to, or our scientists, they get to the point that we have a vaccine, we don't have any solution, right? So there are companies like Moderna, Pfizer, J&J, they're working, and they started. Merck, for example, a couple of days ago, they announced. So this is just announcement of having it. Then it is like going for the safety, going the platform to ensure everything is proper. After the test and all, it goes to the mass production. So it's just like, there are a lot of procedure there. Any assumption having this vaccine earlier from 12 to 18 months, I don't think it is very feasible, right? So the only tool remains there is physical distancing.
Yeah.
So that's the part that how we as citizens really can help is help the economy, help the government, help the, let's say, our own company, and definitely ourselves and family, is that the physical distancing, ensuring that all the regulation by health authorities that are properly like communicated, they are all in place. And that's it. This is just cooperation, because we are all together in the same boat. We are all together.
I see. I have a question from Zainab. She asking if you think that there's a best way to lead to minimize the losses and make no one accountable for those losses, like you talked before about losses, and
Look, thank you. It's a very good question. Look, if we see on the governmental level, there were like some countries that they took immediate measures, and one of the very good examples is South Korea. And look, the essence of what they have done, the action that they took is, number one, they learned from MERS that caused, like in 2000, I believe 4 or 7, if I'm not wrong. So they've learned from that, and Taiwan as well. They learned it from SARS. So there is a learning pattern, and they documented this knowledge. So what is important now for us in Europe or United States or anywhere in the world is properly documenting this knowledge, turning this implicit experience to explicit, because we are saving our next generation or ourselves. It's not going to be the first pandemic. It's not going to be the last. As it shows the history, there's a very good book, by the way, by Florian Snowden. He's a medical historian. He wrote a book, Pandemic and Society. It's a very nice book. And then it goes from the Black Death up to now and evaluates all what happened and then what are. So these are the things. Look, definitely technology helps in this stage. And then technology helped a lot South Korea, because South Korea, they used it. There is a question there about the personal information and how, in what level is shared. But they were careful, and then people, they could get the alert on the safety app or COVID app. Similar point, for example, in Qatar, a week ago, the country mandated to use the application, but there was, within 1 or 2 days, there was a very big security bug there. So this is very important, that you share your under skin information there, which is temperature, your mood, and so on. And then this has an access. First of all, government has an access. They should be very reliable there. Second, they should protect the data. Third, there shouldn't be any third party like Cambridge Analytica for Facebook that they had access. And breaching this information or leaking this information could cause, like, they know you have a stock in that market, and your anger could cause you to sell all. Or they know, for example, while you are happy and this mood, it's not hard for machine learning to prescribe all of that, right? To offer you a specific product because you're going to be more shopaholic.
I see.
My
light is off. Oh, it's gone. Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Well, so then we talk about COVID and all stuff. What do you think, the area and the world will look like after COVID?
After COVID. Let me just start it from the large, let's say, picture. So, for example, for economy, we have a lot of instability. We will experience a lot of instability. And as you see, as I mentioned earlier, that we're injecting money on this area. But then this money should be paid from somewhere. So there is a big hole, and we're asking Big Daddy as a government to fill this hole and help us, right? So households and companies, their balance sheet are impacted by COVID. Then they're asking governments to help. In Switzerland, for example, for independence, they help, and generously, they help a lot. So we don't have that much national debt here in Switzerland. But for United States or many other countries, they have this national debt. And then it goes very high and larger and larger. In one certain point, it should be paid. So the matter here on the economic level, larger economic picture, is these support packages should be assigned in a very smart way. Debatable, really, all of the airlines need to be supported. All, let's say, industry, hospitality industry needs to be supported, all of them or some part of them. Then the question goes, whom to save?
Yeah.
The same as 2008, like the packages, then Lehman Brothers failed, but they, for example, they supported Goldman Sachs,
Yeah.
the government of United States. A similar point for the other countries as well, which is a smaller one, which I believe Switzerland, they've done a very small allocation, was a smart, they checked it. In United States, they put it for all independent and everybody could apply.
Yeah.
So you see here, at least you have to show what part you lost.
Yeah.
And then based on the proof that you have, you get your return.
Yeah. That's good.
So that's I would say for the economic part. But definitely organization and individuals, they're impacted. I can continue for the organization. Let's take another questions and then.
But that's it. So that's what we all hear. So how do you lead through disruption? Then, you know, we talk about COVID and stuff, and organization, individual. You know, what do you think we should do to lead through disruption?
Well, we talked about the individual part, which is really responsibility at this stage, and definitely working on emotional resilience. Definitely this part is on top and utmost there. Of course, emotion comes. This doesn't mean at all suppressing or oppressing the emotion. Emotion comes. The point is to be aware of the emotion.
Yeah.
Not having it, not letting the horse taking it. Even if it takes you, just being aware that the horse is taking, the horse of emotion is taking us. So that's the individual part. On the organizational level, truly it asks for proper leadership. And in this level, it is what is the most important, I would say, part is scenario planning, agility, flexibility. Look, in the organizational level, COVID really brought shift the attention of companies from being efficient means a lot of products and global supply chain, which is under question right now, to moving to more resilience. So this means less products, limited SKUs, but ensuring that the product that you need, like pasta or toilet paper or anything else, gonna stay on the shelf.
Yeah. Makes
that
sense.
means in the organizational level, this one. So this brings another stage, which is we had global supply chain. Yeah, but it's just, it touched heavily. Now, mostly the companies, since they're shifting their focus, it goes more on inshoring rather than offshoring. This means we produce more here, for example, in Switzerland, some products that we truly need. And they're on the question, like, why we need that much food to import? While we have land here, that much land, right? And at the same time, we have a huge subsidy for animal farming here in Switzerland. But anyway, let's put it aside. We don't want to go for that discussion. But when we see here, it is like inshoring and bringing our technology or production back. But it's a small production here. It means a small production line, but heavily automated. And using AI. So it brings digital transformation on the table for sure. But it is not a good news for labor markets, because this doesn't mean necessarily more hiring. Rather means more investment for the technology.
It makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. Well, I don't know if you are listening and you have any question, please feel free to text me, like I said before, because I mean, it's already been 30 minutes and it's been honestly super interesting. But I don't know if
30 minutes? Okay.
Yeah, it's been 30 minutes already. Yeah. So I don't know, but I mean, I had one question, and I don't know if any of you guys have any other question. You just feel really free to do any of that.
Meantime, I can talk more about what type of industries are impacted by COVID. The industry, I mean, definitely the winners, again, we talk about the time frame, okay? It's not, what we talk is not absolute, it's a relative. So for this relative disruption time or disruptive time, the winners are like tech companies or biotechnology, for example. I can find other examples, but basically, if we go for the let's say heavily impacted or negatively impacted, there are like definitely hospitality, restaurants, airlines, hotels. They are heavily impacted. And then if you bring it to the country level, most of the countries, they got the hit and from this COVID impact, but if this situation, lockdown or uncertainty that we have, and is caused, and definitely without that vaccine, let's say in a mass production, we continue this situation of uncertainty. So countries like Greece, Cyprus, Spain, Italy, they're going to be heavily hit. If because in summer, majority of their like national income comes from tourists. So if this is going to decrease, definitely the total GDP or the size of the economy going to be impacted. And that's the thing. I don't know, in news, I've seen yesterday, it was like Cyprus announced a kind of incentive. You can travel there, and God forbid, if you get COVID, they pay your trip, but not your return flight. Something like this. It's a bit funny mechanism.
It's interesting, yeah,
it's a bit funny mechanism, but this is kind of like incentive that they put it there.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, I have two questions from Jean. Thank you, Jean, for asking this question. He said he's asking, so how can we as individuals in early careers make ourselves resilient? Because we can talk about all society and organization, but when we start a career, how do we,
Very good question. Look, first and foremost, ask yourself, what is your focus? Your focus is in what is, or in what is missing. Your focus is on like how lockdown is going on and how economic downturn, and I want to have a job or change my job, which is basically I want to have a new job. Everything is about the future, or I lost my job, or considering what is, and really your focus being on what is and how pragmatically you can solve that. So that's first and foremost. This is on the focus. This focus definitely define the second step, which let's say, quite often it happens in this kind of uncertain moments, that fear and anxiety is taking us, right? Just bringing awareness that this is your guest. This is felt in the body. You're not your fear. You're not your anxiety. You're feeling your anxiety. You're feeling the fear. That's totally different. When you feel it, you're aware of it. So that's the second point. So focus. Second point is like truly being aware of the feeling. And the third point, when it's needed, taking action, being informed and aware that it is not a reaction driven by the fear. Right? Taking a proper action, whatever that situation demands. If it's on your hand, if it is out of your hand, either we need to learn, and this is collectively, this is about this time now, time period, or we need to just take action based on the knowledge and our learning and then move on. Overall, it's a constant learning. Again, I love the definition of physics, which is active learning. The definition of innovation, active learning.
It makes sense.
And being responding innovatively toward uncertainty.
And on that, I mean, it's more personal question. So when you draw the line that it's good to be resilient, or sometimes it's also, you need also to let it go, because, if you keep on going, and then you break, you can totally burn out. So
resilience,
where's the limits?
Yeah, it's very nice. But let me, for the resilience part, like being resilient doesn't mean like being like a strong and a stiff. Being resilient means the same as in martial art. We don't oppose the opponent force. We yield to overcome, right? Or there's another metaphor for that, which is a palm tree. If there is a huge wind comes, it goes down, it bends, but it doesn't break.
Makes sense.
That's resilience.
See?
And then that's the line that the person is there. So either you can control or not. Overall, you let go and you learn. But you get back to the topic.
Makes sense. So thank you. And I have the second question from Sheng Yu. She asking, can disruption be combined with lean or continuous improvement?
Yes. For the companies, for sure. Yes. If we are talking for lean and could be in a personal level, but I assume the questioner has perspective or lens for the organization. No matter. Yes, continuous improvement is incremental change, implementing incremental change there. And then definitely the transformation could be there. Lean has this lens as well. Of course, there could be question or debate right now, and people, they might ask like, oh, if we see like lean manufacturing, then COVID hit should answer, while lean doesn't answer. The definition of lean is having a flow, while the disruption is huger than this flow. And in lean, normally we consider 20% up and down, like interruption. So in companies, for example, the disruption could be like considered as product recall. Right? For example, in 80s, J&J, Johnson & Johnson, faced issues for their product, and it was like contaminating or something like toxic, and they had to recall. Or in 90s or like early 2000, we had cases by Lexus and Toyota that they had to recall the product, or many other products that so far recall, right? These are disruption. Mainly we are trained for plan change in education, like educational institutes and so on. And we are not properly prepared for unplanned change. So part of it is on us. So I'm linking it with the question of Jean. Part of it is on us, like to emotionally really work on ourselves and bring in this resilience, having a proper focus at any time. The focus is going to be on the solution, not necessarily on the problem. Searching for problem doesn't solve the problem.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's true. Well, I don't know if there's any last question, but oh yeah, we do. Another question. In a way, can we say that disruption is essential to growth because it helps us to see the malfunctions aspects? It's a good question.
I love the question. It's a very smart one. So let me go to this part first. First and foremost, we came to this life to be challenged. Disruptions are the challenges of this life to learn. Of course, we have losses there. Of course, there are many people, and my condolences and losses of many people that they lost their family members and friends, right? But this is part of the journey. This physical world is not permanent; it's impermanence, impermanent, and nothing stays the same. Everything changes. So the major learning that we can have is this one. If we have this one as a core and don't take things for granted, definitely we move to the next stage, which is like we can learn a lot from this disruption. We can grow out of that, and we can turn our losses into inspiration. We can turn our mess, if we call it, to a proper message.
Yeah, I see. That's really good.
But look, Flora, this really requires and demands growth mindset.
Yeah,
not a fixed mindset.
Sure, for sure. That's I mean, everything starts with us, and starting with yourself. So yeah, well, I don't know if there's no more question on my side either, and I mean, it's been really, really interesting. I said I really learned a lot personally. I mean, I learned that it starts with you, and you need to grow first yourself to be able to lead then through disruption. I feel like leadership is all about leading yourself first before leading others. So
absolutely. Yeah. And one last point for being a leader. It doesn't matter if you're a leader or CEO of ourselves, or if you're a leader in our home, or let's say in a company or in a nation. Leadership is not a position; it's a virtue. Leadership is earned in a way how we are dealing with disruption, how we are dealing with crisis, and how we manage and lead ourselves and the others in such difficult situations.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I mean, this has been really inspiring and very, very good. Yeah.
Pleasure.
So yeah, I don't know if you have anything else you want to add to it, but I want to really thank you, and thank you everybody who joined us for this short and powerful webinar. That's been really good. Yeah.
Have a nice day.